You are listening to Contraband.
I can't imagine that anybody who subscribes to Contraband Camp doesn't know this guest. First of all, he's living the black man's dream. I mean, when you have a podcast covering college football, which people listen to him talk about movies and TV shows, and of course, higher learning, he's living the black man dream. So, welcome to Contraband Camp, Van Lathan.
I appreciate you, brother. That was a very complimentary and sweet introduction. I hope I'm living my dream, and I'm not so sure I am yet, but we're gonna see, right?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, especially as regards to what we're talking about today, Academy Award winner
Oh, wow.
Van Lathan. And that's what I want to talk to you about because I know you've been following and I've seen you talk about some of the lists, the end of the year list that always comes out. And I'm sure that you get all of these screeners of people in movies and projects that are vying for award season. And it seems like everything I've read, I mean, top 50 movies of this year. I read another one, top 20. They don't list sinners.
Yeah.
And people are upset about it. I don't know if I'm upset, but we'll get into that. But why do you think that is, first of all?
You know, it's an interesting question. Like to you, just like you, I don't know that I'm upset, but I do think it's fascinating. So let's look at a couple of different possibilities. Number one, maybe we liked Sinners more than everybody else did. And
Right.
there could be myriad reasons why, right? Maybe we liked Sinners more because of the people who made Sinners, our cultural allegiance to them. Maybe we liked Sinners more because it was so grounded in our culture, right? It was so grounded in who we are or what we are. Not when I say black, I mean me and you as black Southerners. That's one thing. Me being a black Southerner from Louisiana, then think about the black Southerners that's from the Delta. There's a sliding scale of cultural allegiance that kind of colors your love for stuff sometimes. So maybe we like the movie more than everybody else did. But there's also always the other possibility, which is that cultural translation being the tricky thing that it is, that there are certain things that are excellent about Sinners. There are certain things that are powerful about Sinners or a movie like Sinners that Hollywood broadly does not either understand or find valuable. So if we like it too much, that's one thing. If the movie wasn't as good as we thought it was, that's another thing. But if there's something on the back end that says there's one sort of cultural expression that Hollywood doesn't find as valuable or isn't as excellent to them, then I think it's at least worth a tweet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to get into that last part of it, first of all, right? Because this is something I've been writing about for years, right? That there is an expression or a depiction of blackness that isn't award worthy or notable, right? When you think about some of the great examples that I've ever seen, right? Lawrence Fishburne in What's Love Got to Do with It? I mean, he bodied that. But I think often, and I went through every person who's been nominated for an Academy Award, right? And what I found was that there is an expression of blackness, right? That is centered and acceptable to whiteness that will be awarded versus something that we find culturally and inherently authentic, right? And I don't think that white people can see through that lens because they see blackness as something that must be downtrodden. You know, you can play a slave. You can play somebody who like Holly Berry in Monsters Ball. You can play that role, right? And you can feel that role. As a black Southerner, the thing that was cringe about that role to me was that Southern accent was so inauthentic to me.
Yeah.
And they don't get those nuances. They get that broad white view of blackness, for lack of a better word.
So there's a peculiarness to the condition of blackness that is cumbersome to us, and I'm sure it must be annoying to white people. And let me tell you what I mean. This is not shooting bell. This is just me analyzing. So the cumbersome thing for us is that we understand that being misunderstood is a part of it. Being misunderstood is intentional, is purposeful, right? And then we have to convince white America that they're doing it on purpose. Okay, I'll tell you what I mean by that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, like we look at let's flip this on its ears. Let's flip this on its ears. How familiar are black people with things that are excellent and white? Like, how familiar are we with them? We're very familiar with
Yeah.
those things.
Because we can't just consume black media. Like, it's
Yeah.
impossible.
It's impossible, right?
Right.
We're very familiar with the things that are excellent and white. Like we have a much larger palette for the things that they make that are supposed to be funny, that are supposed to be excellent, than vice versa. My homies back in the day, we in college, and I'm watching Seinfeld, and they go, "Gee, what the fuck you looking at that for?" I'm like, "Watch one episode." It's funny. It's funny. Curb Your Enthusiasm is funny. Now, I'm not
Right.
saying that they don't find our people funny, because funny is one thing that cuts through. But what I'm saying is there's not much that's too white for black people. There's just not that much stuff that's too white for black people. However, there are a plethora of things that are just too black for white people. And when we're expressing blackness and black art at its highest level, it's normally when it's most authentic, which means it's very, very, very black. I mean, it is rooted in this brutal understanding of the American condition that sometimes isn't emotionally overwhelming, meaning it might not be that somebody is a slave, that, because remember, all of these slave movies that we're talking about, those movies are kind of white, right? They're oriented around white domination, the struggle against what is white. White people get that. They understand that. They go, okay, my ancestors had a lot of black people bound and enslaved. They wanted freedom. They're still at the center of it. But like, they're not at the center of Love Jones.
Right.
Like, they're not at the center of that. That's not their story. But the way I look at it is, you can't understand two people being in love? Like, what? So in Sinners, we essentially talking about, like, you can't like, it's a bunch of beautiful black people running around, running away from vampires. Like, what's, you know what I mean?
It's a vampire.
And so
movie.
it's a vampire movie. So to me, when I look at all of this stuff, I go, oh, okay, well then, when we're having these conversations, and obviously we know that cultural translation is a tricky thing, but when we're having these conversations, what I'm trying to impart upon people is that the art itself is not inferior. The cultural translation, there's a glitch in there. Now, if you come back to me right now, and I have to leave space for this, because me and Rachel had this argument on higher learning. There's a specificity that demands attention in all of these arguments. So if we're going to talk about the fact that Angela Bassett deserved the Oscar in For What's Love Got to Do with It, you have to have seen all the movies. You do. You have to have seen all the movies. You have to know what she was up against that year, because there's a difference between saying she gave an Oscar-worthy performance and saying she was bar none better than everybody else. You cannot say that unless you've seen the movies. This is a year where I've seen all of these movies save one. No, two. And there is just no way, to me, in an objective sense from this year, that you can look at the filmmaking technology, the cinematography, the story. So this is not a perfect movie, but everything that was put on screen, plus the tremendous box office success that it had, and then say that there were 20 movies that came out that were better than that. So
Right.
when I look at that, I go, okay, well, let's just have a conversation about why what you think is great might be different than what I think is great, and what colors that. But you can't have a conversation because they go, you're calling me a racist. So I'm not calling you a racist. What I'm saying is there's a cultural calculation that goes into these things, and maybe you don't have the right calculator.
Right. And there's a thing that I wanted to get back to, right? Because it is also, we also have to leave space for the possibility that they just wrong, right? We're able to look back now and say with almost clear objectivity that Denzel's performance in Malcolm X versus
Sin of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman, right? We forget
Mhm.
about that. We can look back almost objectively now and say, like, that wasn't one of De Niro's 20 best performances.
Right.
they were wrong that year. They got it wrong that year. Sometimes they get it wrong, right?
All the
And we
time.
also have to talk about the specificity of who gets to vote, who are
Mhm.
members of the academy, and the idea, and this is the important part, right? Going back to what you said earlier about what we consume the white media, we consume the movies, right? The studies and the statistics and every bit of evidence shows that they don't, right? They don't have enough of a compendium of our art to even be able to judge it. And that is the important part to me. Having said all of that, what we just said, what if it is that, if it is good Black art, that by definition means that they can't appreciate it? There are parts of ourselves that most of white Americans, especially people who judge art, haven't seen. And an authentic piece of Blackness might seem foreign to somebody, or improbable or fantastical to somebody who hasn't consumed it much.
So I think that the way Black people break through to white people in art and other things is it has to be compulsory. Like you have to compel them. Like let's take laughter, for example. Somebody's standing on the stage, they telling jokes. You can't stop your body. You just laugh, right? You just laugh, right? Somebody makes a song. The song is unforgiving. Either it's unforgiving in its depiction, in its aggressiveness, like NWA, or it's unforgiving and unimpeachable in its beauty, like Stevie Wonder. You can't deny it, right? You can't deny the music. So you surrender to it. The question is, and this happens in movies all the time, particularly in film, what happens when you have to meet somebody where they are culturally? We have to surrender to the film a little bit, right? There are plenty of movies that I watch. There's a movie that came out this year called Hamnet. And it's and it's a story about William Shakespeare and how Hamlet came about. Now, I want to see the movie because I want to see what all the fuss is about. That movie's directed, I think, by Chloe Zhao, who is the same woman that did Nomadland. When you go and you see Nomadland is a movie you kind of have to surrender to it. This woman is just roaming. You have to be there for it. Is that something that the Academy can do with Black art that we don't have to do that with when it comes to the Black art? Can you surrender to Black art? Do you think enough of it to put yourself into it and let it wash over you? When it's not comedy, when it's not slave stuff, when it's not NWA, when it's not what your idea of unflinching and unsurrendering Blackness is, when it's a cultural expression from us that takes a little bit more introspection or a little bit more investment from, can you see it? Does it matter then? They don't make Black movies about Black people just roaming around.
Right.
They don't make movies about Black people just on their journey trying to figure out the world. They don't make those types of movies. Our lives aren't that interesting. The life of the Black widower who is trying to figure out, who's trying to date the next lady, that's not an interesting story. The Black man having his midlife crisis and all of that stuff, we're not human enough for that. That's the way I look at it, seriously.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that there is an inherent premise in what you just said that we skip over, is that you are surrendering to Hamlet, right? You are surrendering to Nomadland. The best example is The Flowers of the Yellow Moon, right?
The Killers of the Flower Moon, yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon, which I read the book, and I generally don't like to watch movies after I read the book because I think books are more colorful, but we surrendered to it because they had already deemed it valuable and artworthy, right? Like you're surrendering to it after the valuation has been made. I don't like who do they respect enough to surrender, to accept that valuation and surrender to it when they have already deemed the art not worthy of merit. And if we just ask them to surrender blindly, they're going to get a lot of bad shit, because just the whole spectrum of movies just randomly is bad, right? So whose valuation can make them surrender is what I'm asking, right?
Well, no one can because that's the glitch, right? The glitch is they set the price. They set the cultural price on what's good in terms of what movies are. Like a white male intelligentsia. They set the price, right? What we're trying to do is renegotiate that price. We're trying to renegotiate that cultural deal, right? So, Killers of the Flower Moon, the movie came out. This was one of the first time I pissed off the film bros. The movie came out. It had a ridiculously big price tag, I think like $100 million. It did make its budget back. And the movie didn't win Academy Awards. So I said it's a flop. Because like that movie's a flop. One Battle After Another came out. Everybody saw me fight this. It's a $150 million movie. There's dueling storylines on those films, and in a way, Scent of a Woman as well. So the dueling storylines are this. Number one, those are three beloved performers in Al Pacino, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Martin Scorsese. And what people say is they've given so much to the game that they're due. When you go back and you look at the way Scent of a Woman was awarded at that Academy Awards, Denzel had won some years before for Glory. So what people are saying is Al Pacino has earned this Best Actor Academy Award. This is a Lifetime Achievement Award. He got to get it. When you look at the big price tag for One Battle After Another at $150 million or Killers of the Flower Moon at $100 million, what you get from people is Paul Thomas Anderson, who gave you Boogie Nights, who gave you The Master, who gave you Phantom Thread, who gave you There Will Be Blood, who gave you Magnolia, gave you all of those movies that were made on smaller budgets. He deserves to have his big budget action movie. Let's see what he does. Martin Scorsese, obviously the list of films is too long. People are going to say, hey, he deserves to go out and make this particular movie. What I say is cool, no problem with any of that. The award stuff we can set to the side. But if the movie isn't any good, it's not any good. And Killers of the Flower Moon is not that good to me. And it wasn't just not that good to me. The movie was nominated for a bunch of shit, didn't win anything, and it didn't perform at the box office. So my way of resetting this price is to let people know that not everything you expect to be good or everything that you tell us is good is good. One Battle After Another is a good movie. They are acting like the fucking movie was given to us by Jesus and drips divinity at every showing. It's just not true. And the movie is not going to make its budget back. It might crawl over. It's not a profitable film though. So we have to talk about the fact that there is a different set of expectations, to your point, based upon how some of this art is being talked about and perceived sometimes before it even comes out. You can look at people and you can go, Leo, PTA, Sean Penn, it's going to be so hard for them not to like it, right?
Right.
So difficult for them not to like it. Our directors and actors and people like that, it's very difficult for them to get to that type of perch. Spike, who has missed in some of the things that he has made, right? But who has numbers on the board. Spike Lee's classic period, if you look at Mo Better Blues and Do the Right Thing and She's Gotta Have It and Malcolm X and just on and on and on, Jungle Fever. That is such a minted run, a minted run that I could argue that the person that I want to see get the $100 million to go out and make their movie with no constraints is him. That's the one that I want to see. But those movies are less meaningful. And the reason why they are is because if you look at Mo Better Blues, which is the type of movie that I'm talking about, a story with beautiful, gorgeous Black people in it, about a man making a decision between two paramours and his obsession, which is his trumpet. That's just not what they want to see from niggas. If it was a drug dealer on the other side of it and he had to sell the trumpet or he was on heroin or anything like that, that would be more interesting. But the movie is about actual Black humanity, and that's hard for people to take a real interest in. And I say all of that just to say this. I'm not complaining about it. I've been Black 45 years. I'm not complaining about it. What I'm saying is that it's limiting. It's limiting to me, and it's limiting to you. There's stuff that's fallen between the cracks, and more importantly, Michael, and I'll stop filibustering after this, there's stuff not being made because of this limiting attitude. And if we're going to talk about it, Let's everybody put your big boy and big girl pants on and just deal with the thing. I'm not expecting there's other stuff that's white that I don't get. Like I can't tell you what the best country song is or who the best bluegrass band is. You put it on, I'm gonna be like, I'm telling you the fuck out. But at the same time, I also don't get to make the decision about who the best country artist is and who the best bluegrass is. They do, so they gotta listen to me.
Yeah. And the important part of that and
Actually, they
everything
shouldn't.
you said, right, is
We
to
should make the
me,
decision.
and my hypothesis is that there is a level of humanity that can't be broached in Black art at the sacrifice of the stakes of the film. So if the humanity is, as a filmmaker, you know that every filmmaker says there's a thing that you're trying to get. The main character
Yeah.
is trying to get a thing. If that thing isn't life-threatening, if it's just humanity, the stakes are not high enough in
Yeah.
Black art for it to be laudable or worthy of merit, right? And I think the difference between, like, I think I submitted to Killers of the Flower Moon. I tried to watch it. I liked Nomadland. I
Me too. That's a
right,
really
I
good movie.
understand why it was
Yeah.
got those awards, right? I tried to submit to Killers of the Flower Moon. It is not a good movie that lost. It is an objectively, it could not have been made without those names attached to
No,
it.
it's not that good of a
Because,
movie. Yeah.
right? It isn't, I'm not going to say it's a bad movie, right? Because the acting was decent, but it is not a thing that anyone would watch except for the fact that they had already told us it's valuable and the people who had signed up for it had already gained value by being in other movies that they had already told us was
Mhm.
valuable.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I think DiCaprio is a good example. I think DiCaprio is a good actor. The level of esteem that he has for his art is higher than the performances that he has given. And I'm not saying that he's a bad actor, right? But as it relates to Black art, here's the question though. If, like, when it comes to Sinners, this is a question for you I have to ask.
Sure.
Do you think it is, like, we can shoot all this bail and give all these excuses and justify all of this? I am wondering though, is it possible, like, for different media outlets, and like, these film lists aren't composed by one person and said, this is the person, these are the lists, the movies that I like. It's usually a committee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible? Is it theoretically possible for this to have happened without collusion? Is that possible? Like, I mean, because a movie that made this much money, we forget the incredible financial success of Sinners, right? How the people who actually went to see it liked it. You know, critics, the main criticism was, what if it don't make its money back when it was out, right?
Now let's pause. Let's pause. Think about what you just said. That criticism came before the financial story of the movie was written. The criticism that you are talking about happened after the movie opened at number one. I've legitimately, I'm going to be honest with the audience. I know people feel like Van be complaining. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I've
haven't
never
either.
seen anything like that before. I've never seen a movie open to number one. When I say open to number one, I think 50 million domestic. It's R rated, 50 million domestic, and then like 90 million worldwide, or whatever it was, whatever the number was, and have a publication like Variety say, Sinners open to number one, but it's got a long way to go. What the fuck are you talking about? Like who, like it, that is trying to, once again, like you said before, set the price on the film before the film is even out, before the financial story of the movie's been told. As far as the collusion, I think the collusion goes so far as this, is that all of these organizations, these boards, these newsrooms, all of this, they're all captured by the same thing the barbershop or anything else is captured, from conversation that sometimes can drift into groupthink. Now, there's not as much groupthink in the barbershop. As a matter of fact, the more you stand out, the kind of further you get to go, you got to bring people around to you. But groupthink happens in the positive and it happens in the negative. Sinners came out earlier in the year. If I'm being at my most charitable, what I would say is people looked at Sinners, and maybe if they don't understand it as well, if they don't understand why the movie means so much culturally, or if some of the stuff in the movie just doesn't mean anything to them, if they can't connect with it. Because one, if I was going to make a criticism about Sinners for a wider movie going audience, is Sinners assumes that you care. And that's kind of what Blackness is. Blackness on the screen, when you put that type of thing on the screen, it assumes that you care about that. It assumes that you care about the landscape of the Deep South, about the fact that it is culturally authentic to have Asian Americans in the Delta. It assumes that all of that stuff is going to matter to you because it assumes, like all art should, all good art, that it is important. It assumes that the story matters, right? And if it does not matter to you, you might be sitting around going, why is it 45 minutes before we get, like, what's going on? Like, who cares about the juke joint? Who cares about the method of payment? Like, who cares about all of this? If you don't care about that, maybe you really just don't get it. The deeper question is why you don't, and we get so much of your stuff. But in those newsrooms and in all of those places, it's definitely true that they could have just sat around and go, you know what, we need to take a chunk out of this shit. Number one, we don't want anybody else getting the type of deal that Ryan and them got to make this movie. We want to stem the tide from that. And number two, we don't want to have to reward the cultural phenomenons from a people that we don't really like appreciate their artistic taste. That's true, but that could be true. But what I think is more likely is that they just simply don't get the movie, and they also don't want to have a conversation. They don't get why the movie is so excellent, and they don't want to have a conversation about why they don't get it. Because the inherent bias of it and the fact that there's not cultural immersion to it, to me, I think that's more interesting to me and more front of mind than the fact that they think Sinners is the best movie of all time, and they just won't recognize it because it's a Black film.
I think, though, when those two dichotomies that you gave are an example of why nuance is important, because there is something between sitting in a room smoking cigars and saying let's give the back of our hand to the niggas, and not understanding or misunderstanding or misinterpretation or just not getting it right. The collusion is who's in the newsrooms. The collusion is who's on those committees. The collusion is ain't no black in the room that says, hey, what about Sinners? The collusion is who gets to make films. The collusion is Variety putting on their front story something that they've never done before. What if this successful thing ain't successful? All of that is the collusion. The same is true with racism, right? When you got all of that shit in place, when there's no black person in the room to decide what's good, when there's no black person in the room to decide who gets to make a movie, when there's no black person in the room that says, hey, why you writing this shit about a black movie and you hadn't said it about Killers of the Flower Moon and all of those movies that essentially flopped, then you don't have to say, get this cigar and let's give these black folks the back of our hand, because you did it already, right? You don't have to wait until the end of the year and say, hey, remember what we said we were going to do about the black movie, the most successful movie of the year when you compare the box office gross to what it costs, right? Let's end this, and most of that, an inordinate amount of it, when you look at the industry, is going back into the filmmaker's pocket, and we don't like that. Like, you don't have to do all of that because you already created the system. That collusion already happened before Ryan Coogler wrote Sinners, before it came out, before he released it, before he got a deal for it. All of that is the collusion. And when we have that conversation, and it sounds like we're being conspiracy theorists, like all of these white people just hate Ryan Coogler, I see why it's easy to dismiss, because we don't talk about who wrote that list. We don't talk about how film criticism values whiteness, or how film critics have to inherently accept these rules that just some random white man made up in NYU film school. Because my undergraduate degree, I went to school to be a filmmaker. All of that, the entire structure is geared toward Killers of the Flower Moon and Hamlet and all of the shit that we be like, yeah, we gonna try to like that shit. Because the white people have already deemed it valuable.
The funny thing about the Hamlet part of it is this. That movie is directed by Chloe Zhao. Chloe Zhao won Best Director for Nomadland. Do you know how many black women, excuse me, do you know how many women have won Best Director in all of the Oscars?
So it's her and
That's the Hurt Locker.
the Hurt Locker.
The Hurt Locker lady, Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
it, right?
It's 3 women. In the history, it's 3 women. So there is, and the reason why I bring that up is to say this. Everything that you're saying is true. This is the conversation. The conversation, to me, you can have it any way that you want. I support it any way that anybody wants to have it. The conversation is, isn't it possible that y'all missing something? And that's the most charitable I can be. The reason is because it's the same thing I always do. Like, let's not the same thing. Same thing we always do. Okay, so we can look at, we can have conversations about issues, or we can rebut issues that are brought up to us about things that happen in the community, right? When people throw statistics at you and all of this stuff, and these statistics are manipulated, and a lot of times they're weaponized. And a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I'm in these debates, I'm like, all right, well, we have 2 choices here. One choice is that you can believe that there is something inherently wrong with Black Americans, that there's a cultural or natural contagion that exists inside of us, that no matter what you give us, we're going to rip it apart, tear it up, fuck it up. First of all, that narrative isn't even true, but do you believe that? And if you believe that, then you have a religious belief. I can't talk you out of it. Go ahead. I know that the conversation is over, because I don't think that about any group of people. I understand the history of where people are and how they came along and how cultures are developed and like what has to happen. And so there's no group of people that I believe has any set of inherent traits, right? Or you can believe that there are some things at play here. So if you tell me that there's only 3 women that have ever won Best Director, then you're telling me either women haven't been given the opportunity to direct movies, we green light less films by women, we see the world in man, like the way that we see the world is man, we see it that way. So when we see movies, we translate those movies in man, which means if a movie is directed in woman, we might not get it. There are all kinds of things that you could talk about and address. Then the other thing is, you believe that women are inferior film directors to men. And my deal is, in any of these conversations, is always to get an understanding from you and what your expectations are. If you tell me right now, the reason why this never happens with Black people is because Black people are not as good as make it feel, cool, go ahead. I'm not about to sit here and cry and have a fight with you. But if you're not willing to say that, which nobody really is, then I guess the question I would then ask is, why are the movies underfunded? Why are the critics underplatformed? Why are the movies underawarded? What is the thing? Like, what is the thing? You're a rational person. Like, what is the thing that is making this happen? And then that explains why there's not more penetration into those rooms. That explains why there's a problem dealing with excellence that it's not tangential to some sort of story of Black dysfunction. Because remember, white America takes great pleasure in stories of Black dysfunction. But anything that has to do with Black normalcy the way I see it, or Black function, the exploration of like Lovecraft Country, stuff like that, niggas casting spells in a sci-fi way, all of that stuff. The reason why there isn't a ton of Black sci-fi that has deep penetration, because how could we be futurists? How could we be in space? How could we be doing that? We got to get jobs here. How can we think about having jobs on another planet? How can we save the universe when we can't save South Baton Rouge? You see what I'm saying? Like, all of these things are inherent and they're limiting, and nobody really wants to discuss them because it's a drag. It's a drag to have Van, the Kanye West TMZ nigga, say, hey, it's not a coincidence that all of you guys can't see the brilliance of the movie, because there's a part of American history that you don't think is important. You don't think those people are important? They could have made the movie and there could have been no vampires. I was having a great time.
Right. And there is an approach to that, right? Two approaches, right? And I tend to favor the second one. The first one is to have this conversation, right? What is it about Black art and the specific art that focuses on what is really universal humanity? That Black people have a humanity that exists in everyone, that makes it less valuable than the specific white art that like can just show white people roaming around the desert, right? We can examine that, we can dissect it, we can have all kinds of theories. Or the approach that I tend to think is when you talk about Denzel, when you talk about most Black art, they are most often wrong. What if it is, the larger possibility is, if it is not white people, they are not qualified to judge that art, right? That is a specific, probably more likely possibility. When you talk about Stevie Wonder's great album run, you should go back and read the reviews of those albums that people said it was pretty good. It ain't the typical good Motown stuff that we like, but it's, it's good. So, like, they are wrong almost every time historically, especially when it comes to our art, right? It is the art that we elevated and then they latched onto. They like late stage James Brown. They like, they was gonna ban hip hop before it became the number one kind of music in the world. And the hip hop you like ain't the hip hop probably that they award. It is probably more likely that they're wrong. And I know you know this from all of the stuff that you do. Sometimes you second guess yourself. Like, they are so wrong. You know this inherently, that you second guess yourself when white people like it. Like, if a bunch of white people like something you say, you might be, damn, did I say the wrong thing? Right? Because they are more likely, when it comes to us, when it comes to anything that is not centered on them, it is objectively true that they are probably wrong. They were wrong about everything you think about when you talk about not just Black art, but about history, like slavery. They was wrong about.
Well, I mean, they're not wrong on that stuff. They're lying. But like all of that stuff, some of the people that are wrong because they believe the lies. And, the more I get into history, the more freaked out and mad I get. If I was going to get truly radicalized, it would be history. It wouldn't be what I see on the news. It would be what I read in these books that would do it. So I'll say this. This is essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about what makes you wrong. And a lot of times what makes you wrong is the fact that you simply can't, me convincing my dad before he passed away to have a little pink inside of his steak. Like, me convincing him to do that. Me saying, like, Dad, you're eating the steak the wrong way. And he's like, I don't eat raw food. I was just talking about, stupid. I've made enough money to have my food cooked all the way through. And that's what I want to do. And bring me some A1. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to take you to a place. I'm going to tell the chef how to cook the steak. I want you to try to eat the steak the way the chef intended the steak, without no steak sauce. Do it one time. One time. He does it. He understands now that he is immersed himself into it, that he's wrong about it, but he had to be shepherded through it, right? His wrong was based in his set of expectations. That's not shooting any bail to him or any bail to anyone else, because we live in such proximity to white people that they should not be wrong about us at this time. They're being wrong on purpose, all right? So what I would say to all of this is this. There's two things that need to happen. This argument back and forth with them or with the white intelligentsia or the white cultural stronghold that just it's a zero-sum game. I'm done with it. The real thing is this, and this is a more frustrating argument, right? And this is something that I suffer from as well, because there are realities in America that change your perception of stuff like this. We know how to judge our own art. We know what's good. We know what's bad. We got the same type of politics. We got the same type of most favorite nation status that we give to certain people. Sometimes Denzel will be in a movie and people will be like, I got to go out and see that movie. I'd be like, that movie was not very good. And they would be like, it's Denzel, it's great. It's the same thing that exists, but we know what to expect from us and our art. We sometimes, because of the way America is oriented, don't have as much love for what we say about our art than some of these other structures do. There was a time some years back, I can't remember the award show, and this is not me trying to be a dick about this or change the conversation, but Girls Trip won an award. This might have been at the Soul Train Awards. It probably wasn't at the NAACP. It was at some award show. And they were giving the award out, and there are 4 leads in that movie, and none of them were there. Listen, there's one way to fix this and to change this, is to reorient what we think matters as far as criticism is concerned. Now, let me give you the sobering reality of it. It'll be 100 years before any award that I could give somebody matters as much as an Oscar. It's just a fact. Because of the way that matters as much in terms of in the grander scheme of Hollywood. But the reality is this, though. Those structures have to be built. The structures where we make the stories that we care about, we award ourselves, we decentralize these other thoughts, we take our award shows seriously, we take our cultural love seriously, we take our criticism seriously. Some of the best critics and writers that I know, I mean, not some of the best, the people that I listen to are you. The people that I listen to are Wesley Morris. The people that I listen to, these are the people, these are my thought leaders, right? And that matters to me. I don't think it's anybody smarter than Michael Harriot. I don't.
Right.
So when
it comes to movies, right? Like we have Brooke Obie do a piece every
my God,
week.
she is legitimately, and I will say this about Brooke. Brooke is a purist. So sometimes I'll be trying to get Brooke to do certain things and Brooke will be like, she don't want to do it. And I get that and I appreciate her. I appreciate her more than almost anyone. Actually, a fucking deadly accurate cultural genius. For sure. So when I read some shit and I see that as her, that's a stamp of approval. And I got a litany of Black people. I don't have to go outside of it to get what I need. And there needs to be more of that. Now I'm starting to sweat. You got me going, Michael. God damn it.
And when it comes to, like, to me, Sinners is a step toward that, right? When a movie has this much acclaim from us, from your culture, and you see the results and how it is valued, it kind of helps to dismantle the veneer of that thing that we also attribute value to, that white criticism, right? Like, there's people right now.
It's really white. Yeah. It's really white acceptance.
Right. And the thing that Sinners also does is, so people think, well, the movie industry is all about money, right? That, you know, if you make some money, they'll make a movie. But there is a thing that Sinners is being robbed of, in that there is also a class of movies that when they hand you that check, they know we probably ain't gonna make our money back. Yeah. But it is worthy. Right. It is what the Medicis did with Michelangelo. It is what the movie industry, like, this is a piece of art that should be made. We have deemed this art valuable. And this Sinner shows that's being withheld from us. That aspect of, you gotta make money. When I was in my first film class I took, right? We had to write a paper. It was a film criticism class. And at the end of the semester, we had to write a paper. And the paper that I wrote was that at the time, right, this was the early 90s. So just remember when all of the Ernest goes to blah, blah, blah. Ernest goes to camp. Ernest goes to... I said, you know what we need? We got to have a white Ernest, right? When Black people, that's when we made it. When we are allowed, when Hollywood gives us a check to make a movie that isn't artistically excellent, and it's the box office isn't huge. It is, let's make this silly bullshit for an audience that exists. That's equality, right? Like you shouldn't have to be excellent, or you shouldn't have to
Right.
bring in $1 billion, right?
Right.
Because the bulk of movies are just movies. When you look at what's going on in your movie theater today, it's just some regular ass movies that's out, right?
It's just somebody was able to get somebody like the movie. What you're saying is correct, and then there's something else. It's like, so the movie that won Best Picture last year was Honora. Movie cost $6 million to make,
Right.
directed by a guy named Sean Baker. Sean Baker makes small movies. Now, Honora ended up going on to make $60 million, but why did it make that much money? It made that much money because of the way that it was perceived or received critically. It became a movie that, in order to have an opinion on the awards race or movies of that year writ large, you had to go see it, right? What you're talking about is when you make that movie, though, you say, and I say this all the time, whoever you are that's listening to me right now, the people that come to me about films that they want to get made, they're not trying to make no movie to buy no boat. They grew up somewhere and they had a period of their lives and they want to share that with humanity. They don't want to expose the inhumane treatment that they got in school. They had a summer in the 10th grade where they grew up as a person and they think is fly. They want to tell that story. They imagined something that happened at some point. They want to tell that story. For white people, those movies get made all the time. All the time. All the time. So like, for black people, they almost never get made. Man, I'm not even going to go into this whole thing. Like, kid I know has a great script. Great script. Take it to the people. We talking about it. They go, yeah, okay, cool. You gotta attach a rapper to it as a producer and get like a rapper as an executive producer. It's like to make it make sense so we can give you the money because we need this movie. If we give you 2, we gotta know we gonna make 7. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like either you believe in what we trying to craft or you don't. And this is no diss to any of the brothers that have picked up the mic and started rapping, but not everything is for you. We don't have to run everything through your, that's not what we're doing. This filmmaker is talented. They are young. They are trying to do their thing. And I can't promise you it's going to make 5 or 7. I can't promise you it's going to make 10, but I can promise you that it will be executed. And I can't promise you it's going to be good. What I can promise you is that this person has talent. And if you make this one, the next one will be good. I can promise you that the world is better with this person's filmmaking acuity in it than it would be out of it. And that's part of the art, to your point. Part of the art is who gets to make it and what they're expected to do on the back end. But all of this stuff is different. That's why Will is important. That's why Tyler's important. No matter what the fuck y'all say, that's why all of these people, and I've been very critical of movies, all of these people that know how to get a movie up and to you, they are very important. We just need a lot more of them. And to your point, we need a lot more opportunities to have things that don't end up being cultural phenomenons. Just cool movies, bad movies, fucking regular movies, great movies, horror movies, all of that stuff. Just more.
Yeah, man. That has always been how I viewed art, right? Like, to be a great artist, you're not going to be a great artist unless you're giving the opportunity to be a great artist, right? To become a great artist. Before we go, man, I know you are preparing for the big weekend. My phone is still blowing up because my alums or my frat brothers are texting me about all this college football. Who's going to win the college football championship?
I think it's Georgia, man. I think right
Man.
now, I know it sucks. I know it sucks for us, SEC.
See, you as an SEC person, you know it, but listen, check this out. I'm from South Carolina. So I go to Auburn, like, because I want to go to the school, right? I don't have no beef with Alabama or anything. So I go to Auburn. And I pull for Auburn, but I'm not necessarily anti-Alabama because I didn't grow up in Bama. Then I go back home, start my career, everything, and then move back to Alabama. In the heart of Bama country. I moved back the same year they hired Nick Saban.
Oh, shit.
Lived there
Yeah.
through all of fucking Nick Saban's entire career. I leave, Nick Saban leaves, and I move to fucking Georgia.
Nah. Hell nah. Hell
Or
nah. You in the
so
you to
I
put
am
yourself
in
you put
enemy
yourself in the
territory.
goddamn hell nah. You in the belly of the beast.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, in rural Georgia too, not Atlanta. I'm talking about rural Georgia, where all the white folks either got a MAGA hat or a Georgia Bulldogs hat, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could take it, man. Like, cause
They gonna win.
I don't even fuck with Ohio State.
See, let me tell you like this. All of this stuff, this is another reason why the LA thing works for me.
Yeah.
Nobody like they win and it's cool. You know, the losses move faster, the wins move faster. But when you back home and you driving through Mississippi, like you driving through Georgia, you driving through Bama, they together. It's go, roll tide, make America great again, and all of that. A lot of them times, them people, the football wins are like the 2024 October 6th, November 6th. It's like a shot in the arm. So you don't want to see them have it. And I get it. But unfortunately, this year, I think that you're gonna have a tough time down there in Georgia dealing with them people because I think they playing better, they're playing good at the right time, and they're probably gonna go on a little run. But Ohio State's great. The best case for you is that Indiana wins.
Yeah, that's what
All
I'm
right.
hoping.
That's the best case because they in a state that has as much clan as anybody else, but we never go there. So the best the
And I'm not like if I lived around the Indiana fan, I wouldn't be mad. Like they deserve one.
they've been
When
been
somebody-
getting their asses kicked for
Yeah.
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there it is. We will get into the playoff this weekend, and then maybe after it's over, you'll have me back because it's the first time you ever asked for me to come on your podcast. I guess I gotta say something else crazy on Twitter to get on again.
Nah, man, you always welcome. I always default to this motherfucker too busy for me.
Nigga, what? Mike, let me tell you before I go, just so people know, and I'm man, you're meaningful. You are. You're meaningful. You matter. Your words have weight. Your presence here, you could never write another word, say another sentence, do another thing. And what you've already contributed to cultural analysis, cultural criticism, to having fun, like your life is deemed worthy. All of our lives are worthy. Yours is worthy and useful. So if you ask me to do something other than come across the country to a birthday party on like 3 days notice, but if you ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it. I got a lot of love and respect for you, man.
But see, that's exactly how I feel about you. So I don't even in my head think I might as well not ask Van because this motherfucker he's so important. He's got we need your ass out there. We need you at Abby Phillips' table. We need you talking about college football. We need you talking that talk, eloquently giving the same analogies and the metaphors that you use. We need you out there. I feel selfish asking you, like, come do this shit about movies for 45 minutes.
Hell
So
nah. This is the kind of stuff that matters the most because we have to litigate these things between us. Who knows? Maybe in 2 years, maybe we join the people at the NAACP and building out that award show. Maybe we have different structures. Maybe all of this. Maybe there are more talks to be had about how we centralize the importance of our critique, how we have these conversations. I am a person right now that the point that I'm getting to in my life is looking for ways to take all of this incredible talent that we have and these incredible voices that we have and find a way to centralize that and to build something that is long lasting and establishes legacy. Just ain't put my finger on it yet. Number one, because the economy bad. So I haven't figured out how to do it quite yet. But I'm inspired. I'm inspired in these conversations, and I'm inspired to have people that I look up to that are so much better at putting this stuff together than I am. So you need me, I'm there, brother.
all right, man. Thanks for coming, man, and thanks for hanging out with us on Contraband Camp.
No problem, brother. Hit me up.
You are listening to Contraband.